Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining the Headmasters Roundtable. Believe it or not, it is November 9th. We are almost to the finish line here. Just 11 more days until Thanksgiving recess, but who's counting? Thanks for making time to join us tonight. We're expecting a pretty big crowd, so I'm going to let the room populate here for just a minute. I am joined by two of my colleagues, Seth Eileberg, our Director of Athletics and Co-Curricular Activities, and Deitrich, our Director of College Counseling. Seth will be able to answer some questions and chime in as we talk about the Low-Residency Program for the Winter Varsity Athletics. And Ellen is the chair of our H-term committee and will field questions and share a little bit more information about that. I had an old mentor who used to say, if you can't be on time, be early. So I like to start things on time. So here we go. So tonight's agenda, we are going to quickly look at COVID-19 on campus and the local regional update. We'll talk about the next 2 weeks. We'll talk about the turkey term, the part of the autumn session that is online. We'll spend some time talking about the H term. We'll chat about the low residency winter athletics program. We'll talk briefly about the spring term return and the calendar for the spring term. And then I will invite you to a Headmaster's Coffee on November 20 and 21 if you're in the area, and we'll take questions at the end, but we'll also take some questions along the way. As with all of our Headmasters Roundtables, if you have a question, please feel free to type it in the Q&A box, and we'll get to that as soon as we can. And you can also raise your hand if you're brave enough, and that's always a fun part of our roundtable, and you can raise your hand and we can allow you to speak and even show your video. So with that, just a quick update on COVID-19. Your parents will shortly get Hill Days, which comes out on Monday evenings, and you'll see this update. But right now, we've conducted over 4,000 COVID-19 tests on campus, on employees and students. To date, we have a very, very low Hill positivity rate of 0.04%. We've had 2 cases on campus, 1 employee back on August 10th and 1 student about 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, the rate in the surrounding area is really starting to climb, as is the case in most parts of the country. Just today, Montgomery County went over the 5% mark for a 7-day positivity rate, which puts us in the area of substantial exposure or substantial spread, which is definitely a concern. Montgomery County is skewed a little bit by our, as we go south towards Philadelphia, we have we're closer to Philadelphia, which I think has a rate in the 7 or 8% right now. And so it's skewed in that regard. I think Pottstown's still okay. But the Pennsylvania positivity rate is also climbing now at 6.9%. We've been doing very well, not just with our weekly surveillance testing, but we've also done wastewater testing on 5 out of our 6 dormitory areas on campus. The only dormitory that we're not testing is upper school, which is just very challenging because it also includes offices and our wellness center. And so that's difficult to do wastewater testing. An update on our rapid PCR testing. For those of you who've been following along, we do own a rapid PCR testing device, but we still do not have the testing cartridges. We're hoping to get them tomorrow, but I'm not so sure that's going to happen. But we do hope to have that in place for the winter athletics program and the spring program as well, and we'll keep you posted on that. We are definitely in countdown mode here as we try to get to the end of our time together this fall into Thanksgiving recess, which begins on Friday, the 20th for day students and Saturday, the 21st for boarding students. It is definitely touch and go on our campus and pretty much on every campus as we talk to other boarding schools around the region and around the country. I just want to prepare everyone for the possibility of what could happen in these next 2 weeks. Hopefully, none of these will have to happen, but there is a possibility that we would have to ask all of our students to participate remotely, whether that's day students staying at home or our boarding students staying in their dorm rooms. That would be a pretty significant step. We may also just downgrade our campus wellness level back to Charlie 1, or perhaps even to opening conditions, and reduce the size of our cohorts in the dormitories and in co-curricular programs and in other areas. That would just reduce the potential for spread. In a worst case scenario, we would have to do an early departure for our boarding students and day students, but we're hopeful again that those aren't likely, but I do mention them here just because they are, there's something that we would consider if things really got alarming. Our COVID testing schedule remains in place. We will test through the end of this week. We will not be testing next week as we plan to be departing next week. If a student very much needs a test to travel, we can arrange for that through the Wellness Center, but other than that, we're not doing our general surveillance testing. Next week will be fun. We're hoping to leave on a high note. We're having a sort of traditional spirit week with different dress code themes each day and lots of activities and some unusual and fun food. It will be a surprise for our students, but hopefully they'll leave campus feeling great about their accomplishments, and they should be really proud. To the extent possible, we're doing some athletic tryouts this week and next week for our winter varsity teams. It's a little bit limited in terms of what we are able to do or not do. We're in Charlie 2 conditions, so we can't do full out scrimmaging for those teams, but we should be able to get a good determination of students who are interested in being on the varsity teams in the winter. And then we'll also be spending some time, especially next week, beginning to pack and store for our boarding students. Just a little information about that. We have determined which dormitories are going to be used, which dormitories and which halls are going to be used in the winter varsity athletic program, the low residency program, and I'll just rattle them off here. Hopefully you know where your children live if you're a boarding parent. We will be using the following dorms, or plan to be using the following dorms. Upper School East, floors 1, 3, and 4. Upper School West, floor 1 and 3. In Dutch Village, we'll be using all of Markle. In Dell Village, we will be using Fehrenbach, Lowndes, and Shearer. And then we'll be using the first floor of Rolfe and the first floor of Foster. So noticeably, we are not using several of the Dutch dorms, one of the Dell dorms. We will not be using Wendell and not be using Hillrest. What that means is that if your child lives on one of the floors that I mentioned, they have to pack up. We're providing a pretty good checklist for them, boxes. We'll be doing the moving for them. They just have to pack. The items will be placed in unused common rooms and locked dorm rooms and in pods. They'll be inventoried, they'll be labeled, excuse me, they'll be recorded, and those rooms will be locked. And as I said before, the boxes will be moved by professional moving companies. If your child lives in a floor that I didn't mention, or in a dorm that I didn't mention, they don't have to pack, but they really have to organize and clean their rooms. Everything has to be removed from flat surfaces and labeled in the event that we have to pack up at the end of the year or before they come back for some reason, or if there's boxes that'll be stored in their rooms while they're gone. If a student has large furniture or electronics or rug or lamps and doesn't want to store those, but their room is going to be used, we're working to make sure that that's communicated well to the student who's departing the room and the student who's coming back. And the big exciting announcement was that students who have wall coverings or photographs on their walls or displays may leave those until they return in the spring. Student pickup will be fairly similar to student drop-off beginning of the year. Parents will be able to drive onto campus close to the dormitories that can be driven to, and will be able to pack and have their boxes loaded into the back of the car and depart. We will be cleaning all of the dorm rooms immediately after people depart. and then we'll be cleaning them again at the end of the winter varsity athletic season before people return. We do have a handful of international students who will be staying through the turkey term until we begin the winter program. That's just 5 students, all staying in Markle dormitory. And we do have about 18 students who are staying through the original departure date of November 24th. So they'll also be staying in Markle and in McCune dormitory, so McCune Hall. So I'll stop there for a second. I see a question. Can parents help move kids out of the room on the 21st? The answer is no. They can, as I said before, they can move up, they can drive onto campus, and they will be able to have things moved out. So you basically have to stay in your car, sort of like we did at the beginning of the year. Any other questions before I move off this topic? You can certainly come back to it if you want to raise your hand or type in a question. We are here. Okay. Moving right along. Oh, one last question here. If my child is a winter athlete, can she stay in her room? Probably not, because we're organizing our students by team. So unless she happens to be assigned, she lives in a floor where the team will eventually be, which is possible, but a little bit unlikely. She probably can't stay there, but we can check on that, and she can check on that. Okay, the turkey term, which is only what I'm calling it. This is the time between Thanksgiving recess and New Year's, when we have 3 weeks of classes. You can see here, we made a slight change, as you may recall. The Thanksgiving recess runs from November 21st to 29th, basically from Saturday through Sunday of the following week. And then we begin remote classes, 3 weeks of remote classes for all students on November 30th through the December 18th. We will have one Saturday class, but I've been informed today that it will be asynchronous, which means that it's not a live class. They'll be recorded and there'll be assignments, and so it doesn't necessarily have to happen on that Saturday, but there will be classes posted to Canvas on December 12th. During the turkey term, if you're a local winter varsity athlete, you can gain access to campus to work out in the gym and in the athletic facilities between December 3rd and 18th. There is a testing protocol that goes along with that, which has been emailed out to those the relevant students, which you have to have a test about 3 days before you arrive on campus, and then another test. And there are limited hours for working out in the afternoons during those weeks. And then we'll have our winter holiday recess from December 19th to January 3rd, and campus is closed at that time. Another question came up while I was talking. What if your child is a day student? What procedures do we have to follow to move her in? I will get to that in a moment. But basically, all of our students are going to be returning. Those who are winter varsity athletes will be returning on January 3rd, and it's the same protocol for day students and for boarders, because everyone's living on campus during that period. One more question here. So to confirm, they don't need any bags to pack up their things. Everything, including clothes, will be packed in boxes. And when they return in spring, they will move back into their same room. That's basically correct. If they have some suitcases, they are bringing things home. They shouldn't be leaving anything of value, and any clothes that they're going to need. They won't be able to access anything that they store during those winter months. We will have boxes available for students, but if they need suitcases or something like that, they should have those. And yes, when they return in spring, they will move back into their original room unless there's been some change request or room request to be changed, but you would know about that, I think. All right, we're moving on to the H term, and I'll ask my colleague, Ellen Deitrich, to turn on her camera and her sound so she can help me. Hi, Ellen, how are you?
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
Great to have you here. So Ellen is the engineer of the H term. She's shepherded us to this point, started way back in June. Thanks so much, Ellen. I think that it speaks volumes that our Director of College Counseling is leading this charge. I think she volunteered, of course, and she really, I know in talking with Ellen, she feels really strongly about how this helps our students with their sort of college portfolio and things to write about in their college essays. And colleges are really looking for students to have authentic learning experiences, which is one part of our mission and vision. And this is a great opportunity for us to really experiment with that. So the H term runs Monday through Thursday for 6 weeks, starting on January 4th and concluding on February 11th. We have our own H term courses, which are by theme, by form. And those courses are being taught by Hill teachers, and they're around the teacher's interests as well as the themes. Students have been informed several times of the opportunity to review the course catalog and sign up for courses. And so far, my math may be a little out of date. It was from this morning, Ellen, but I believe we have 256 students who have signed up for Hill H-term courses, which is really exciting. So more than a little more than half of our students, or almost half of our students, are signed up for courses. The logistics of those courses are published in the course catalog, and you'll see there at the bottom of the screen is the website. If you just do hill.org/academics/H-term, you can download the course catalog. And that includes the hours of the courses, the teachers who are involved. It does not yet include the Canvas link or the Zoom link, but that will be sent out once the enrollment is finalized in the next couple of weeks. We have some courses that are very well subscribed and some that still have room in them. So if students are looking to change or add a course, or join a course, they can. Anything I missed there, Ellen, on logistics?
I would just add that the expectation of the work each of those days, Monday through Thursday, is going to be about 2 hours a day for the courses.
And does that include sort of homework or project work?
Yep, that could include a class, instruction with the teacher or a guest speaker, or it could be touching base with the teacher and then working for an hour and a half on a research project or whatever the student's choosing to focus on.
Great. And I was looking through the course catalog today. It looked like the majority of the classes were in the morning hours, sort of 9 to 11 or 8:30 to 10:30, but there were some afternoon slots and evening slots as well, right?
There are, and we've also had a lot of teachers who are saying, I'm happy to record all of the classes. And so if a student is not able to do something about the time, please don't let that be a barrier. We can't guarantee it, but if your child is looking to do a course and the time is not convenient for you because of where you are, please just reach out to me, because I'm happy to speak to the teacher and see if there's a way we can make that happen.
Great. Of course, the other option for the H-term is to propose an independent program. And I've been talking to kids who have just come up with some really cool independent programs. And these range from taking online courses to doing independent research to doing internships and community service. I've just seen some awesome proposals and talked to kids who are really excited about this. And we have, let's see, we have about 100, looks like 100 and, sorry, my math is about 107. I feel like one of the anchors on the election night, like doing the math on screen. 107 independent proposals already under review. I imagine most of those will be approved. There are some expectations about a number of hours, and we will be assigning advisors to those independent programs, so students have a faculty member to bounce things off of and keep track of and present to towards the end. So that's exciting. That's still open. You can still apply for an independent program. We've also just unveiled a new Engineering 1 option, and this is for students of all forms who would like to add engineering in the winter. This is basically an accelerated version of our Engineering 1 curriculum. And if they complete that course successfully over the 6-week period, they can then enter Engineering 1 in the spring term if they have an open, if they only are taking 6 courses or less than 6 or less courses, so they can add that as a 6th or 7th course, or it just gives them a head start if they're interested in joining engineering next year. It's limited spaces. I think we've got about a dozen spots in that option. So if that's something that your child was thinking about taking engineering this year, but didn't figure it out in time, they can add engineering 1, and Mr. Jump will be thrilled to be working with them. Also, for all students in the H term, all of our students, period, they will be receiving weekly assignments in their year-long courses, A through G courses, 1 assignment per week, that are sort of review and maintenance assignments. Ellen, do you have any more information on how that is going to be communicated? Is that just through the normal Canvas process?
I believe that comes from the academic office, and it will probably come through Canvas by teachers.
Great.
Yeah.
So, we want to make sure that our students don't fall behind and keep up to date there. But it's also a great opportunity for students who are feeling like they need to, maybe get a little bit ahead or catch up. There's plenty of time, and all of the classes that were recorded this fall remain posted on Canvas, so they can always catch up there as well. A note that as we've said all along, the H term is required for all winter varsity athletes on campus, as well as any international students that remain on campus, which appears to be only a handful. But if your child is planning to do the winter varsity athletic program and hasn't signed up for the H term, that will happen. They will get signed up for the H term. So if they haven't done that and want to get into a class, they really should do that soon. As I mentioned before, there are possibility for some changes or late registrations. And if your child is one of the lucky 110 who has not either signed up for an H-term course or an independent program, you'll get an email from me tomorrow to make sure you know that your child hasn't signed up for anything. It's possible that you know and you're supportive of that, but I also want to make sure that parents realize what an opportunity this is and encourage their children to sign up. 6 weeks at home, well, actually a little more than 6 weeks at home, if you count the holiday recesses, that's a lot of idle time. And so we really do want our students to be involved. And Ellen, you want to make your pitch for those 110 students of why you think it's important for them to do it?
I do, thank you. I go back a few years to Harvard putting out Turning the Tide, which was a report that they issued that basically said, look, we're looking for students who are exploring their interests and speaking to them. And it doesn't necessarily matter what that interest is, but it matters why. And H-term is an opportunity to do that, to simply explore something you might have interest in, take a course and maybe interact with a teacher or in a subject area you're not having the opportunity to, because it's a great way to learn. It's a great thing to speak to in your college process. And more importantly, and most importantly to me, it could really confirm some interest for you and help you down the road in terms of, how that may apply to your college process in terms of where you want to apply and where you want to go, and then what you want to do after college. So to me, I am just nerdily excited about H-term. It is we've been talking about it since I came to Hill in terms of and I'm sure before I came to Hill, in terms of giving our kids the chance to get out and experience and apply what they're learning in the classroom, but just have that experience that they can speak to. So I think this is a wonderful, unique, and really important opportunity for our students. And if you're not sure, or your student's not sure what might they do, please pick up the phone and call me or send me an email. I'm happy to talk to anyone. I will tell you, as I've said before, we're really hard pressed to say no. We want this to happen for your kids. So I'm happy to brainstorm some ideas or talk to students directly, talk to you. Please just reach out. But really, don't miss this opportunity. It is, it's going to be really phenomenal. So I really encourage everyone to do it.
So what you're saying is you're excited about it.
I am so excited about it. The only bad H-term is that I don't get to take any of the classes that I really want to take. So, and there is
some pretty cool classes. There's like a cooking class. There's a bunch of really cool things for students.
really great ones. And so please don't worry about the deadline right now. Let's just get in touch, and we will take a late registration. We'll make something happen. So please just be in touch.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in as well. You know, this is something we have been trying to do for quite a while, and our new strategic plan that we launched 2 years ago really emphasized authentic learning experiences. So we're also hoping to learn a lot from the H term this year, so that we may be able to incorporate that in future years. Maybe not a full 6 weeks, but perhaps 2 weeks, 4 weeks. And the more students that are involved, the more feedback we'll get. It's really a terrific opportunity. I just want to make sure that parents are aware. And you can go to that website right there, thehill.org/academics/H-term. That will give you an overview of the H term. It will give you a link for signing up for courses, for your kids to sign up for courses. The course catalog is there, and also the parameters for doing an independent program proposal. And Ellen's email address is there, although it's pretty easy, Deitrich with an E before I, which is always challenging, at thehill.org. And then Jen Murphy, J Murphy at thehill.org, who's our coordinator for the H term. So please do sign up. We'll be doing some other things during the H term, similar to what we did last spring with occasional advisor meetings. There'll be, like, I'm sure Mr. Baum will do his evening podcast. We'll do some chapel. There'll be a variety of activities to keep kids connected during that time period. But we do really hope that we can stay together as a community. So I will, there's one question here about engineering, or two questions. Remind me again what engineering is, who is eligible, and is it graded? Engineering is well, it's engineering, so it's a combination of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, robotics, and coding. Anyone is eligible. Any student can take that. It can be a graded course. It is a graded course, excuse me. It is not graded during the H term, but if you add it in the spring, it becomes a graded course, a year-long graded course. So basically, we're accelerating during that 6 weeks, catching you up on everything that's happened this year to date. The second question is, can current engineering students take engineering, or is it just for students who have not had engineering? There is an engineering option for students who are in engineering 3 and 4. It is not for students who are currently in engineering 1 and 2, but I'm sure that Mr. Jump would support students who are currently in those courses if they wanted to continue moving forward. So they can just reach out to Mr. Jump.
Zach, can I just add one last thing?
Please. Yeah.
H term is not graded itself. It will not be on the transcript, but there will be a summary evaluation from the supervising faculty member. And that is something that students will have, and they can share with a potential employer or add into their college application when the time is right. So there will be written feedback. There will be a reflective piece from the students themselves. So there will be a lasting record and an evaluation, if you will, of the experience, and from both the student and from the supervisor, that will hopefully be helpful later on.
All right, Ellen, I've got two questions. One I think I know the answer to, but
Okay.
There's a general question about, can students do courses and an independent program or an internship?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the courses, again, are 2 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. So that leaves you with 22 hours in your day, plus all day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to do internships or an independent program. So our students are used to doing more than 2 hours a day. And so if they'd like to do more, they should, and they can. And in fact, I have it right here on my sheet. We have 7 students who are already doing an H term plus an IP and independent program, that is, and 5 students who are doing eudaimonia plus an independent program. So it can be done.
And
The second part of that question was, can a student sign up for more than one H term course?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Some of them, we do have some in the evening, not many, but then one just for 5th formers on writing the college essay in the afternoon. The majority are in the morning, but again, most of the teachers are saying, based on content, we're going to be recording these. And so there may be a very easy way to make participation in more than one happen. So just reach out to me specifically with the courses your student is interested in, and we will do our darndest to make that happen.
I think we've effectively whittled down the 110 that don't have. It's like getting electoral college votes tonight. We've done it. I should have a map here. Like
I was gonna say.
All right. All right, moving on from the H term. Thank you, Ms. Deitrich. We'll get back to some questions at the end, if there are any. I'm going to ask Mr. Eilberg to pop up here. This really is like election coverage. We're turning now to Seth Eileberg, who comes to you live from the field house. Hello, Mr. Eilberg. How are you?
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you.
So, it seemed a long time ago when we talked about developing our low residency program for winter varsity athletes back in the summer. I think everyone thought we were crazy that we might be able to, that we would need to close schools so that we could do this. And we're talking to a lot of schools who are following our lead at this point or trying to. Our plan is to make a decision by December 18th or no later than December 18th. About whether we're going to go forward with this. There's a lot of factors in this. One of the factors is health and safety, of course, that's the primary factor. It's also the interest. Some teams have more interest than others in being here. And then lastly is the ability to have meaningful training and competition for our students. And so as of right now, I think there are 9 teams that are potentially here. We're not sure that all of those teams are equal in terms of all 3 of those categories, health and safety, interest in being here, and ability to find competition during that time frame. So we'll be making that decision by December 18th, and we'll communicate it to students and parents as soon as we make it. But as of right now, it's on. That's our hope. For those students who have been notified that they're in that program or will be notified in the next next week or two due to tryouts, those students will be required to begin their home quarantine on Sunday, December 27th. I believe that's a Sunday, right, Mr. Eilberg?
That sounds right.
Someone check me while I'm doing this, but a couple days after Christmas here, we wanted to give everyone a little bit of time to celebrate with their families and travel home and begin a home quarantine like we did in the beginning of the year. It'll be 1 week of home quarantine and then 1 week of quarantine on campus. So what we're calling a split quarantine. Students will be arriving, both day and boarding students. There's no difference in our low residency program. Arriving on Sunday, January 3rd, I think it's before 4 o'clock onto campus. They'll be directed to their dormitories. They'll be dropped off there and then they'll quarantine in their dorms. They will be out of their dorms doing some individual exercise, just getting in shape and reconditioning for the season, acclimating, it's a big word, and then eating in the dining hall and such. So, and they'll be doing some testing during that week to make sure everyone's healthy and safe, but the quarantine at home makes a big difference. As I mentioned a few times on the call tonight, we are organizing teams by dorm, and that's being designed mostly around their coaches. So many of our coaches live in the dormitories, and so we're trying to assign teams to dormitories where their coaches live and halls where their coaches live. So in the event that they're traveling, that floor is sort of off campus. If they're going overnight somewhere, we don't have to staff that with someone else. It just gives us a better supervision, and then we're assigning faculty by team to support each team. So they'll be supporting them in dormitories and meals and activities, and of course in athletics. And then lastly, I just want to mention campus life. There is this sort of buzz around campus that the low residency program is not going to be any fun. They're just going to be doing H term and athletics and going to sleep. I don't think that's going to happen, Mr. Eilberg. What do you think?
I think it's a great opportunity for our students and student athletes to be together with their teammates and make up for some lost time there. It should be, I think, a lot of fun. And we do have, I think some creative ways that we can safely socialize both, within teams. Certainly there'll be a lot of time together with teammates, which our kids certainly value. And we have great evidence of the socio-emotional wellness that comes from connecting with your teams and other affinity groups. And I'm confident we can find ways to socialize across campus in a really safe way. But that is something we want to be really careful about because we're trying to preserve the opportunity for safe competition. And I think we've got a great plan in place to do that by bubbling on campus as fully as we possibly could, and then, even by team. So as you mentioned, the ability to even put certain faculty with each team. We're trying to really cut down on the connecting points, the vectors, I guess, as the research shows that each team would be coming in contact with even on campus. But it should be a blast. I think it's a really great time for these student athletes to come together and get a deep dive and do some cool stuff around their H-term projects as well, that I think will lead to really interesting activities, perhaps service, and other really meaningful conversations on campus.
And the one thing I remind our students when they mention this, to me, I say, well, at least you're going to be with 10, 20, 25 of your closest friends, as opposed to being home and maybe potentially in some form of quarantine or lockdown at home as the cases rise around the country. No offense to the parents on the call, but you get to be with your friends, and you still get to do the H-term. You still get to connect with your friends in other ways, and there will be some interaction between teams, but we do want to maintain those independent bubbles, especially as we start leaving campus to compete against other schools, or having schools come to us. So anything you want to add, Mr. Eilberg, that I missed? And I'll look at questions here to see if there are any LRP, that's my new acronym, LRP questions for the low residency program.
No, I think you really did a great job of summarizing it. You were correct that December 27th is in fact a Sunday. I think there's a couple questions about quarantine details. I can take those, or you can,
Sure,
that are waiting there.
All right, well, there's one question here. Will the winter varsity athletes need to dress in academic dress? No.
Please no.
Please no. I think there is academic casual for the turkey term classes, but H-term is very casual. All right, next question. Will international students have a possibility to quarantine on campus beginning on December 27th if they're in the winter varsity athletics program? Mr. Eilberg?
Yeah, that one, I think we are hoping that everybody can, again, partner with their host families and get back into the area if traveling internationally or from restricted states, and quarantine off campus for that time between December 27th and January 3rd. I think as we get closer to that time, if folks are having trouble confirming those details, please be in touch with me or the residential life office, and we will work to support that however we need to. But our hope would be that our good organized host family program there gives us a chance to do that first week of quarantine off campus.
Right, and there's another related question, which is even for domestic students who have to fly here, the goal is to be quarantining within driving distance of campus, just like we did in the beginning of the year. We don't want students quarantining for a week, getting on a flight, going through an airport, train station, and the like.
Yeah, and I think your teammates are a great place to start with that, because they're going to be on the same schedule, starting to quarantine at home. And so that may be a great opportunity to spend a little extra time with a teammate in the week leading up to checking in.
Okay. Going back to a question here, which was, I'm trying to find it here, but there was a question which is, if your child is a winter varsity athlete and is assigned to another dorm, can they have access to their original room? And I'm just going to say the answer to that is no.
And I did answer that one, I think, in writing. We very well may have other teams already in that dorm, and it's best to definitely plan to not have access. So plan accordingly with packing, please.
We have a fun question. It isn't really a question, but I guess it is. Academics, athletics, and sleep sounds wonderful. Can parents sign up as winter varsity athletes for H-term? Sounds wonderful. I guess the answer to that is no, but some of our teams may need an extra player. We'll know. Okay, next question here. Will the student athletes have roommates, Mr. Eilberg?
They will.
They will. When will we find out which dorms each team is assigned to? Do you know that off the top of your head, Mr. Eilberg, already?
I think we're working to confirm that still. I think the dorms you read sounded exactly right to me, but I would think that we're going to send that out in writing to everybody. As we finalize in the next week or two at the longest, the final varsity rosters, that could change a little bit of our numbers for different rosters and thus which team goes in which dorm. So I'd hesitate to put that out there quite yet.
Okay, well, I think our students can probably guess fairly well based on who their coaches are and which dorms they live in, but I don't want to do that on the air live. So, okay, next question. Will students from the same team be able to interact with no restrictions since they will be incoming off of a quarantine and subject to testing? So the answer to that is not right away. So since it's a split quarantine in that first week, we're going to limit, like we have, in the beginning of the school year, to their roommate. The first, they'll be able to interact with their roommate and work out with their roommate, and then we'll progress right away from that to the full team. And so that's how that will work. What is the likelihood that teams will have competition? I am most concerned about swimming. I think it's premature to say right now. We're certainly trying to find competition for all teams. Swimming is a little bit different because we can do some level of virtual competition, and swimming generally is less concerning, less contact than some of the other sports. But we're being very creative, and we're looking for teams that are like-minded and have similar protocols. But a lot of that will depend on interstate travel and different regions and different leagues. There's some announcements out of other states in recent days, and we're still hopeful that we'll be able to find competition. But that's why we're waiting till December 18th to do that. Anything to add to that, Mr. Eilberg?
I would just emphasize, in many ways, the sport itself of swimming is one of the most COVID-friendly sports we have, and our aquatics student athletes have been training hard and doing a great stuff. Just this past Friday, we were able to have officials come in and run a time trial inter-squad swim meet, and that was exciting. And just today, our cross-country team on a beautiful day was out at the golf course running a virtual meet against other Maple schools. So, we were in uniform and competing and posting those times up against times from other, Maple schools at their home courses. We actually handicapped the courses a little bit to make the competition equal there. But there are going to be opportunities for competition. We, like Mr. Lehman said, have to be creative perhaps. But I'm encouraged by those opportunities for swimming as well as others.
And I will say, Mr. Eilberg and his colleagues in the athletics department have been working closely with the other Maple athletic directors to design some league competition. And we obviously have very good relationships with other regional athletic departments. And there's a lot of interest in competing with us. I think we've set a standard for safety and health here. And people know that we have very good testing protocols. So if there's competition to be had, we will find it. That's next question. Will there be laundry service provided for the athletes on campus? I think the answer to that is I don't know. But we have laundry machines in every dorm, and our athletic equipment room will be doing their athletic laundry. And so we'll make sure that they get their laundry done, but one way or the other. I froze. Apparently I froze. Did you notice that I froze, Mr. Eilberg? Someone says, coming back from a restricted state, can kids quarantine at home if they drive back? The answer to that is yes, they can. As long as you can drive back, you can quarantine at home. During quarantine on campus, will swimmers be allowed to work out in the pool? Yes. During that week, they'll be allowed to work out in the pool. They'll have to maintain their cohorts and their distance, especially in locker rooms and things like that. Will a list be provided of what to bring to the dorms for winter varsity athletes? We can do that, right, Mr. Eilberg?
Sure.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yep.
All right, I have a hand up, so I'm going to take Wenjun Wang. I'm going to allow to talk. Are you there, Wenjun? Hello. I'm allowing you to talk. Hello.
Hello, yes,
Hi, how are you?
fine.
You had a question?
Yeah, the question is as the answer for the previously same questions for the quarantines. When the team back to the still need the quarantine 14 days.
Correct. So 7 days
Okay.
off campus, 7 days on campus.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for raising your hand. Okay. Mr. Eilberg, I'm going to move on. We have other things to talk about, but thanks for sharing. We'll come back to you if we have questions.
I'll
Sort
be.
of fun. All right. Spring term. I'd love to be able to have a crystal ball and be able to tell you everything there is to know about spring term, but I just don't know it. So I'm going to tell you what I do know, which is that currently we are scheduled to have our early spring recess between February 12th and February 28th. We do not yet know what the return quarantine expectations are, or if there's going to be any sort of phased arrival. That will depend on regional, national, and international health and travel restrictions. And, you know, there was some exciting news out today, maybe about vaccines. And so we'll just know more and we'll let you know as soon as we know. Spring term classes will run from March 1st to June 4th, and that will happen no matter what. If we have to do a little bit online, we'll do a little bit online, but we plan to be in person. We don't yet know what our spring campus wellness level will be and what sort of off-campus activities will be allowed and that sort of thing. But we will certainly update you on that. The modified block schedule that we started this year will continue in the spring. It will be a little bit different. My understanding is we're going to do about 15 days of ABC, 15 meetings of ABC and 15 meetings of DEFG. And then we're going to do the rest of the term ABC, DEFG, but still 80-minute periods, 3 periods a day. So it will work out. We've built in an Easter long weekend on April 3rd through the 5th, a parents' long weekend on April 23rd through the 26th, possibly through the 27th. Commencement remains on May 29th. And you'll see that I skipped over it. I'm going back to it. The in-person expectation. Our expectation is that all of our students will be in person this spring with very limited exception. The limited exception would be certainly for underlying health conditions, travel restrictions, government travel restrictions, and very limited what we're calling hardship exceptions that would be approved by me. So we've been able to be flexible this year, this fall so far with remote participation, but we believe we've been able to establish a very healthy environment here on campus. We expect that to continue in the spring. And quite frankly, the remote, while we've gotten pretty good at it, it's quite burdensome and challenging for our students and teachers. It's also difficult to build community. And so we are expecting all of our students to be here in the spring term, and it will certainly be a graduation expectation for our sixth formers. So if that is a concern of yours, I encourage you to talk that through with your children and reach out to me if you're asking for a hardship exception. But otherwise, you should plan to be here according to whatever arrival dates that we schedule. So that is the spring term. And then, I'm going to take more questions in a moment, but as we pack up and leave, for day student parents, I'm inviting you to join me for coffee at the Center for the Arts in the Center for the Art on the patio outside. Hopefully we'll have weather like we've been having the last few days. Holy wow, it's been amazing the last few days. It was 76 degrees today on campus. Fantastic fall day. And then on Saturday at 9 a.m., boarding parents, if you arrive here a little bit early or your son or daughter isn't quite ready to depart yet, please join me for a cup of coffee, again, at the Center for the Arts on the Boyer Gallery patio. That is all I had, but let's take some questions. Question here, understanding all the challenges and uncertainties ahead, things are moving in the right direction COVID-wise. Do you have any sense yet of opportunities, plans for spring athletes to preseason train condition with their teams in any way prior to the return to campus on February 28th? Apologies if this question is not for this discussion. Mr. Eilberg, could you come back on for a second?
Yes.
So I'm going to take a first stab at this, which is March 1st is really early for our spring season typically. And so we'll be viewing that first couple of weeks of March as basically a preseason on campus. We don't imagine that even if things improve from a COVID perspective, that we would do some of our traditional spring trips. We'll hope to get back to that next year, but we'll be doing conditioning and training on campus, and we do hope, certainly if we're doing winter varsity athletics, that we hope we'll be doing spring varsity athletics under good conditions. Anything to add to that?
I just add that we've benefited greatly, and again, certainly the spring weather we've enjoyed has helped make that an even more enjoyable experience for our spring athletes, many of whom have taken advantage of this autumn too. Last 4 or 5 weeks here of autumn, we've been having our spring teams train some, so we've gotten some fall ball, if you will, in that should help have us more prepared and ahead of the game going into next spring. Obviously, we were excited to offer that given what happened last spring, and we're certainly eager to get the spring started this year as soon as it's possible. But right now, our plan is not to come back early from break, but to hit the ground running when we get here. Again, that'll be determined. Exactly what that looks like will be determined, obviously, by current health conditions, our campus wellness levels at that time, and what's necessary to repopulate campus after spring break, as Mr. Lehman said. As we finalize those details, certainly the start of and the nature of the start to spring athletics will be a part of that plan.
Thank you, Mr. Eilberg. And the other thing that I just mentioned is that we are still trying to find opportunities for some of our fall athletes to compete in the spring in some limited ways, whether that's on a Sunday or different showcases and that sort of thing. So we'll do our best on that front. We do hope that things are going to be better in the spring, and we've been fortunate to get some spring weather right here in November. So terrific. I have a comment here. I think it goes back to when we were discussing the Winter Varsity Athletic Program, Mr. Eilberg. It says, it sounds like the Olympic Village. Although usually there's a McDonald's in the Olympic Village. We don't have a McDonald's, do we?
I'll have to do some more research on how to make it even more like the Olympic Village.
We can give out pins. Like every athlete could have pins that they give out, but there's no fans. We could do DoorDash every day. That could be fun.
I'm glad you brought up the fan thing. I will say that, we're well set up to live stream all of our home athletics in the winter. And we certainly understand the disappointment throughout this year so far of parents not being able to see everything that they normally can. And we're really mindful of that. And we are eager to find ways to continue to utilize Hill Days and our social media to keep families connected. And the live streaming will allow for us to broadcast competition at home. And most of our opponents have that in mind as well. So we hope to bring you as much competition as possible in that way.
All right, so there's a couple questions here. I'll take one for you while you're still on here, Mr. Eilberg. Just to confirm, student athletes will be coming home for the end of February for break.
So that is totally dependent on the game competition schedules that we're able to put together. I think that would line up well if the schedules allow for it. I think if there's opportunities for competition during that time, we would want to give the student athletes that opportunity. So that may change the return time for break.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit, Mr. Eilberg, in terms of, let's say let's say your basketball season, for example, went right up to the end of February, and those students didn't have a chance to go home, and they've just played a game, a state championship game, which they won, of course, right on February 25th, but they've then been exposed to another community we would probably have those kids go home, do a quarantine, take classes remotely, and come back. That's why we're just not ready to predict all the intricacies of the return to the spring term. The beauty of the spring term is that it's 14 weeks long. And so there's a lot of flexibility there. And even if you're a spring athlete, you wouldn't, miss a terrible amount of school. We could also do that quarantine on campus if you were a distant border or international student. We've got great facilities here and great flexibility. So we should be able to support that. But in general, we are hoping that our students will be able to go home for some period of time after being here for the winter. And that's also why we've gone forward with, being home for Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. So, and then just confirming, I heard this correctly, remote learning in the spring is not an option. Thanks. Again, I want to be really clear. We are expecting all students to be on campus in the spring with limited exception. So it's not it can't just be a preference. You have to fall into one of the categories that I mentioned, which is restricted travel, government restricted travel, underlying health and wellness conditions related to COVID-19 that make you more susceptible to COVID-19 or to more serious COVID-19 symptoms, or a hardship, which is relatively undefined, but it's a significant hardship that you would basically be petitioning to me about. We are trying to build community. We are trying to support our teachers. And the expectation is that this has been a very health and safe community. And we would like for our students to be here. So that is the expectation. We will still be recording classes because there's always a chance that a student would become symptomatic, but we'll also have our rapid PCR testing in place at that point. So we generally will not be sending students home as a precaution if we know that they are not positive for COVID-19. So we've gotten pretty good at this, and we think we can handle it in the spring, and we want you to be here. Mr. Lehman, I would be remiss if I did not extend a heartfelt thank you to you, Mrs. Deitrich, Mr. Eilberg, all faculty and staff for making this fall's on-campus, in-person, and remote learning possible. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Eilberg. Thank you, Mrs. Deitrich, and I accept your thanks. What is student morale on campus with all of the COVID restrictions? Well, there really aren't. If anything, we are as unrestricted as we've been since the beginning of the year. We may have to tighten that up a little bit right now. I would say morale is pretty good. I'm the headmaster, so I'm not in every conversation with students, but I see a lot of kids around campus, and I asked them. We had a great weekend. The weather has been fantastic. Students are really enjoying their time with each other. They know that's coming to an end in a couple of weeks, and they're trying to make the most of that. I think the headmaster's holiday last week helped a lot. I think all of the activities that our faculty have planned have helped a lot. And I think the fact that students know that they're going home soon to see their families for the holidays is really exciting. So I don't know, Mr. Eilberg or Ms. Deitrich, you are our advisors and you're working with kids in other capacities. How, I shouldn't be the final word on this. How's it going from your perspective?
Well, I would say that I had a meeting just late last week with a student, and we were talking about a friend of theirs at a different school and having to be remote and not feel part of the community. And the student just looked at me and said, it's hard to be here because it's not the same as it usually is, but we're here. And that is just incredible. And so I think our students are really happy to be here with each other. As they almost always are. They are really respectful to each other, and their love for Hill. You can just feel the spirit and their love for Hill every day, and it's pretty remarkable. And I think the faculty gets really buoyed in their spirits by being with the kids and having them around. So thank you for sharing them with us.
And you said spirit. We are having Spirit Week, Ms. Deitrich.
Right.
That's going to be phenomenal. That's going to be epic.
Epic.
We only do epic here at the Hill. Mr.
Right.
Eilberg, you want to chime in on morale, student morale?
Yeah, I would echo Ms. Deitrich's comments, and Mrs. Eilberg and I do the fifth form advising, and we had a Zoom last week, and obviously that's a different format than we're used to in previous years of all being together in one place. I wasn't sure, how we'd get through a 40-minute Zoom exactly. And yeah, we found ourselves running over time and nobody really jumping off. And I think the kids enjoyed the sense of community there. It didn't hurt that we were doing a little trivia quiz with Chick-fil-A gift certificates for the winners, but
Always about the Chick-fil-A.
yeah, that's always a good morale boost. But you know, I think they're enjoying the great weather. They're able to be outside. Still has been a real plus down the stretch here, and they're getting to do the things that they do. It may be with some modifications to ensure their safety and health, and I think they've come to respect and understand that and value it. I mean, we have very you know, mature and intelligent students who, you know, want to do their part to help there, and really proud of the effort they've put forth. And certainly in our area, I think they're taking advantage of, you know, the creativity and thoughtfulness that our coaches have put into providing opportunities, and the other non-athletic co-curriculars. Kids are into the things they love to do. They're going to do it with adults that are passionate about it, and with them side by side on it with other students that they can connect with around it. We have our play coming up this weekend, 3 performances of that. So that should be a lot of fun, and obviously a different look, but they've put it together. And I know the students who are involved in that or any of their activities do it with energy and enthusiasm, and that is a big part of morale. So.
And we had a petting zoo this weekend.
And we had a petting zoo.
How can you have bad morale when you have a pet, when you're petting a llama? I'm just saying, how can you? No, seriously, I think our kids are doing a great job, and our faculty have been incredible. And there are certainly hard moments here, but for the most part, we all feel very fortunate to be together as a community. So thanks for the question. Comment, thank you and the entire Hill family for their steadfast leadership to keep us virtually COVID-free. While it has been hard to navigate these uncertain times, we really appreciate your advanced planning and full commitment to our children. We look forward to the springtime and a hopefully more normal time. Hear, hear. Nothing to say but yes to that one. Thank you. Perhaps you said this, but will students still be restricted from club sports in the spring? I said that I don't know. We just don't know what our campus wellness levels are going to be, or what our restrictions on outside sports are going to be, or outside activities. Again, we're hopeful that things are better in the spring, and we'll be able to be more unrestricted at that point. How has the admission season gone this year? How will that be handled over H-term and winter break? I assume they're talking about our admissions, not your admissions, Ms. Deitrich. But you can talk about that too if you want. Our admission season has gone very well. We are one of the few schools that is allowing on-campus interviews. I think at last count, our number of interviews is up 10% compared to last year at this time. And last year was a record year, so that's pretty amazing. How will that be handled over the H-term and winter break? During the turkey term, we'll definitely be having as many visits as we can, since campus is closed to students. And they'll be able to have a full view of all the buildings and go in and out. And then in January, the last month of the admission season, we will probably go back to how we're doing it now, which is only adult interaction, not interaction with students, and a more limited visits to buildings, especially if students are in those buildings. But we will continue with that. Yes, someone wrote petting zoo exclamation mark. Yep, it was amazing. There's a question for you, Ms. Deitrich. Can students take H-term courses outside of their form?
Yes, with some restrictions. So I would say just have your student contact me and let me know what they're thinking about. And again, we're hard pressed to say no. We want this to be an experience kids really enjoy, but we came up with this idea of the forms, the theme for the forms for a reason. So we really want to try to maintain that connectivity to each other and to Hill during H-term. So, but there are some exceptions based on the course. Chris McGriff's play, for example, is going to have students from different forms because that's the best way it's going to work. So there are some exceptions. So just feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about it.
I like how you called it Chris McGriff's play.
Oh, what?
I mean, it's our theater program, but it belongs to Chris. It's amazing that way.
He's such a big presence. I just think of it as Christmas.
He is for sure. We have another comment here. We like compliments, so we'll take it. You have all done an amazing job this semester. Proud to be part of the Hill community. So are we. Does anyone want to raise their hand? We have just a few minutes left here. Anyone want to raise their hand and ask a question or share a comment? It's always fun. We did have the one, but it was a question we already answered. Will the play, so there's another written question here. Will the play be live streamed? I think they're talking about the fall play, which is actually not a play as much as it is a musical television show extravaganza. And the answer to that is it's not going to be live streamed, but it will be streamed, or it will be placed online. I don't have all the details of how that's happening, but I think you can sign up to watch on YouTube Premiere or something like that. So check Hill Days, which I think just came out. Check Today on the Hill. If that still doesn't answer your question, send an email to Mr. McGriff or to me, and we'll get you an answer for that. We agree with the last comments. You are heroes. You're heroes, Mr. Eilberg, Ms. Deitrich. And stay well. We will. Always, Jenny Biggs, always a big fan and lots of compliments there. Okay, I don't have any more questions and no hands have gone up. It's always, can't someone raise their hand and just ask a question just for the sake of doing it? Nope. Should I just call on someone? Oh, wait, someone raised their hand. Here we go. I guilted them into it, Ms. Deitrich. Jean, are you there?
Yes, this is Gene Short speaking. It's
That's
Winter.
not Short. Hello, Mr. Short.
Getting advised by my wife that it's not her. What are you most proud of in terms of how the Hill has managed the last 4 months?
Absolutely our faculty. Without a doubt. And a close second place is our students, but our faculty came, they were brave and courageous, never balked once, took on extra work, really just, they're heroic, in my opinion. All of our faculty, not just our teaching faculty, being here, being optimistic, being ready to go, and we haven't had a single teacher say that they didn't want to be here, that's just amazing. And I'm, you know, our students are right behind them. This is not an easy environment, certainly not in the first few weeks, and to be far away from your parents for a long period of time, not to have the typical activities. We were laughing about Halloween. You know, they're like, where do we get costumes? And someone said, you can buy them in stores. And someone said, what are stores? We haven't seen stores in 12 weeks or 14 weeks. So you get them back in a few weeks, and I'm sure they'll be full of stories, but really proud of all of that, and just proud of how our communities come together. So, all right, we have another, thank you, Mr. Short. We have another question, another hand raised. Anju, are you there?
Actually, Zach, it's Sid Patel.
Hey, good, how are you?
I'm doing great. First of all, to echo the comments, thanks to you and the entire team for everything you've done to keep things as normal as possible. But since we couldn't get there for Parents Weekend, is there any chance the Hill can arrange for a virtual tour of the new quadrivium project that's been opened?
Yes, we're getting that. We're actually working on that right now. So we'll do that. We could have done that tonight. That would have been fun. I could have like walked around with a camera following me, but we'll figure out a way to do that during the turkey term or maybe in the H term. And we are definitely going to have a Parents Weekend in the spring. That would be a time for that as well.
Good. Thanks so much. And again, thanks for everything.
Yeah. How's everything up there in Pottsville?
Everything's great in Pottsville.
All right. Talk to you soon, Sid.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to take the last three comments here. Thank you. That was one. Your teachers are amazing. Thank you. That was number 2. And thank you, Hill family, for all you're doing. Be safe. So that's a great note to end on. Again, just a reminder, I'm going to put in the last few plugs. If your child hasn't signed up for the H term, get that done. And you'll get an email from me tomorrow. Get on it. Number 2, join us for a Headmaster's Coffee on Friday, November 20th or 21st. Remind your kids to pack up so that they're ready to leave on the 20th and the 21st. Anything else we need to, anything else we need to remind them of, Mrs. Deitrich?
Just reiterate, sign up for H term, and if you're not sure if your kid has, reach out and we'll let you know.
Mr. Eilberg, any last words?
Go Hill.
I knew it was coming. Go Hill. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Oh, wait, there's questions. Sorry. I'll respond to these questions offline. So I think everyone's had a long night here, and we'll make sure we get these questions answered. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.